Hello and welcome to another episode of Anomalies. I'm one of your hosts, Dan Hall. And when I'm asked about what an anomaly is, I think in these terms. An anomaly is something that's out of the ordinary, something that you don't expect. And today we're going to have a guest that's going to talk about something that many of us don't expect or think a lot about. Krystal Kelley is our guest today. And I found out about Krystal through SUFON, Seattle UFO Network. And so I think, Kelly, if it's okay with you, or Krystal, rather, I'm looking at your name, Kelly, and I'm saying that's your first name. It's Krystal. But Krystal, tell us a little bit about SUFON and how you got involved in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Dan, for having me.
Sure.
I really appreciate it. I enjoy talking about these topics because I feel like it can open a portal for someone that maybe they never had this idea and then it can spring off to other things. So hopefully it's a conversation about discovery and always synchronicities, that's for sure.
I
So
like that.
SUFON is it's the Seattle UFO Network, and the organization has been around for over 20 years.
Oh,
I've been a coordinator for the last 5 years. I think since about 2020 is when I kind of came into contact with them because they were going to do a sky watch up on Mount Rainier and try to identify craft during the anniversary of the Kenneth Arnold seeing the flying
NFL,
saucer.
right?
So
Mm-hmm.
that was in 2020, and we were going to go camp up on the top of an overlook that overlooks Mount Rainier. So the airspace, we were where you could see the airspace, and I was just really excited to go there to kind of. I didn't really know much about Sufon, but I convinced my husband, who didn't really wasn't super excited, but he does like camping, so he got like really into the camping part. Um, but he was also like, you don't know these people? And I was like, no, but they're into the same things I'm into. Like,
Uh,
I want to call in craft, and I play crystal bowls. So I brought my crystal bowls, and I have this like pyramid that I sit under, and I brought that with me. And sure enough, when I got there and spent the weekend with all these people, they were like my people. Like
mhm.
they were even probably some of them more into things. And I learned so much about uh everything from like the secret space program to people's encounters and just all these things. And I got really excited and kind of excited about the group. But we were just kind of in COVID, but kind of coming out of COVID, and they
Mhm.
needed people to make either online events or in-person events because there just wasn't enough of us to, create events. And I had this idea that I wanted to do an alien open mic,
Uh-huh.
where people come and tell their stories or sing a song that they wrote or, like whatever they were inspired to do from whatever encounter experience they had. So when I told the coordinators at SUFON about it, they were just like, "Oh yes, that's great,"
Uh-huh.
and so I think we've had like 6 of them, and every single one has been very different, but phenomenal, and nothing that you could really explain, but the energy and the stories that people tell, it's a very healing process. Like people, you can tell a lot of people wanted to get something off their chest or tell a story or read a poem or something that meant a very lot to them. And they knew that it might not be not that it's not appropriate, but a lot of people don't want to talk about extraterrestrial contact or things that it makes some people really uncomfortable because they're not even sure if if it's real or something like that. So the alien open mics kind of became this like uh healing thing for everyone, even me. Like even when I go
Mhm.
up and someone would say something, it would remind me of a story of something that happened to me, and I would realize I've never even told anybody this story, and I'm telling like a whole audience full of people, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And
Yeah.
so
Do you
it
remember?
was
Do you
really,
remember any of the stories?
oh
Could you
yes,
share? Tell
yes.
us. Tell us one of the stories you remember.
So one that's popping into my mind right now is one of our other coordinators, Troy Bacon, came to one of the last Alien open mics we had, which was at the Chalet Theater in Enumclaw. And and he had a dream of a past life when he was in the Orion Wars. So this is like centuries ago. Like I think
Hmm.
it's 6,000 years ago, actually.
Wow.
I could be wrong about the time, but it was this like vivid memory he had of being a commander in that army, and he told the story, and it was pretty wild. Like, you just think like what what has happened in our past that we don't know from our history books, like these things are coming into people's dreams. Some of them are firsthand experiences. Another guy came and talked about when he was in high school and five of his friends saw the same UFO craft at the same time. But every time they told anybody about it, they'd just be like, oh, you were high, or,
Uh-huh.
like
I believe it.
blew it off. And he's
Uh-huh.
like, and this guy was probably in his 60s, and he said this was the first time he had told his story and people believe him. So it's always something different. I mean,
Hmm.
all of them have been, we've had some people like channel music, and then some people literally just sit and story tell about experience they had, like camping in the woods. A lot of these things happen in the woods. Um, we've heard some pretty amazing Sasquatch stories as well.
I
Uh,
would guess if you're in the woods.
yeah, I don't know if you know Penny Rummel, but she wrote a book called Orbs of Life, and she came to one of the open mics and talked about an experience she had with a Sasquatch baby.
Wow.
And
Oh,
it was
wow.
really it was a really powerful story, and yeah, just fascinating things,
Yeah.
like all different uh experiences. I can't help but think that they're um connected in ways
Hmm.
that our perceptions are kind of growing um, as we like develop our psychic abilities and our clair skills, like clairaudience,
Hmm.
clairsentience, all those types of things. We're just opening up our human potential and kind of learning. I actually call it remembering what where we're from, or what the origins of the universe is. So it's been an interesting ride. I am gonna say when so the reason that the Bermuda Triangle came into my kind of perception. I mean, I've always since I was a child, I was fascinated with the Bermuda Triangle. So
As have I
it
been.
was
Yeah.
nothing new to me, and I had heard
Hmm.
lots of stories about being there. And I had been to one side of the Bermuda Triangle in Miami before, and actually had some. The energy there was uh, alive, like very electric, very vibrant, but it wasn't the same as where we went. We went in Puerto Rico, which is the southern tip of the Bermuda Triangle,
Hmm.
and it what started off as a friend, like a colleague I had known for a long time, from like video production and doing different working on different things. She had relocated down to Puerto Rico, and she happened to hear about the alien open mics, and she was like, Krystal, there's so much going on here. There's people that say there's bases out underneath the
Hmm.
water, there's portals that open there, and she's just telling me all this stuff, and I was like, I got to get there. And she's like,
Hmm.
yes. And so we spent
Let me go back to the open mic thing because I'm involved in something that I think might be a resource for some of those
okay,
people who come to the open mic. Have you ever heard of Opus, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support?
okay, I'm writing it
Anyway,
down.
okay. Anyway, I belong to that. And what I do, and I just did it this morning before we got on to this podcast, was I reached out to somebody who contacted Opus, who lives in West Virginia, and has just had some totally weird experiences. And essentially, what my role is, and anybody else like me in Opus, we're there to listen to what people have to say. And probably what you found out with the open mic kind of thing is that people, if they know people are going to share some of those kind of stories and there'll be a receptive audience, they're more willing to share what's happened to
Mhm.
them. So I see a connection between Opus and that open mic. Just wanted to throw that in there in case some people listening to this podcast are unfamiliar with Opus.
That's so, I mean, I think you're spot on because when a lot of people, I think, were coming to the open mics out of curiosity of
Mhm.
wondering what other people were going to say, but then they found themselves being pulled up and telling their own story. And a lot of people would get up there and say, like, I had no intention of telling my
Mhm.
story tonight, but then after hearing other people's stories, it just they just felt compelled to want to share their story too. So I think that's really, I think there's definitely a correlation, and it's important to be listened to. You know,
Yes.
your stories are, it's your truth, you know, and it might not be what other people have experienced, but it also might be very similar to something someone experienced that they are thinking, am I crazy? You know,
Yeah.
like something that maybe they're uncomfortable with because they think they're the only one that ever had that experience. But when people start connecting, I find that overwhelmingly more people have experiences than not, you know.
So in a past life, I used to teach sociology in the
Mhm.
community college system here in Washington. And one of the first things I learned about sociology is reality is socially constructed, meaning reality is what people say it is. So if people say there's no such thing as Sasquatch or there's no such thing as UFOs, then a lot of people are going to be that. And if you believe that, and if you start talking about the opposite of that, that's going to be met with some resistance. So it takes a certain amount of courage to do that.
Mhm. Definitely. It
Let
does. Oh, go ahead.
well, I'm just going to say, let's go back to Sufan for a second. So if somebody were interested in Sufan, how would they uh, join? Yeah, how would they join? That's probably the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
important.
So our main platform that we use for Sufan is on Meetup.
Okay.
And we also have a Sufan group on Facebook, but we're
Mhm.
not on Instagram. And I think we have a YouTube channel, but it's not always being worked on. But the
Uh,
Meetup and the Facebook group are the two ways. And it's just SUFON,
mhm.
um, Seattle UFO Network, on Meetup and on Facebook. And that's the best way. Join the Facebook page, join the Meetup group, and then we post events every month. We have a handful of events every month. Some of them are cross-posted and are available online with other groups that we work with kind of around the country and even around the world. We have a group out of Toronto that we
Mhm.
do. It's called Light Workers and Starseeds, and we do a lot of cross promotion with them. We we go to their events and vice versa. It just kind of broadens our audience and gets us, you know, some more perspectives. It's always nice to hear that this isn't just happening like in America or
Right.
in, you know, it's nice to know that it's happening everywhere, you know. At least that's what I'm convinced this is happening all over the world.
Just to segue a little bit with some more sociology, uh, and this actually came from somebody we interviewed on the show. This person was talking about cultural trance, and what they said is that every culture kind of has a hypnotic effect on people where you think this is the way things are, and this is the only way things are. So when somebody says, no, they're not that way, that kind of breaks that cultural trance. That's a necessary thing to do, but as maybe we found out with Opus, kind of an uncomfortable thing to do. So it's good that you're out there segueing with other groups and, kind of getting a similar message out. So let's go back to the thing that intrigues me the most, the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
So research your story about how you got to the Bermuda Triangle.
So, so it really started with my friend who relocated there, and she saw that I was doing the alien open mics, and she asked me to come do an open mic there. And she's a TV producer, and she said she's been working on this show called Universe on Earth, and the Universe on Earth crew wanted to record the alien open mic that we do down in the Bermuda Triangle. And of course, I was super excited to do it. Without even knowing logistics, I said I would do it. And that's just kind of something I do. I just jump right in. And then I start to realize I'm like, wait, if I'm going there, I want to do some investigations too. Like I want to look into some of these things. And so Alder basically was connecting all of us together down there to go do these investigations at certain places that people said portals open up or that they see ships going in and out of the water. There was this mysterious lake there were beings seen around it. There were ships seen around it for decades. Like this isn't like a new phenomenon or anything. This is like people that live around there, they just know. They're like, oh, that's a ship, or that's a
Mhm.
portal, or oh, those are the little grays, or like something like that. But it was for the most part fairly well known by the locals that this stuff was happening for sure. And the people that live there that I wouldn't say are like locals, but have like relocated there, a lot of them came to the open mic saying, since I've been here, I've seen this or that, or,
Wow.
like, so it kind of, and also, uh, was quite healing for the community to open up at a public place and talk
Mhm.
about this stuff.
Mhm.
I think that there were quite a few people that came up to me and said, you don't know how much people need this. And they said,
Mhm.
when are you doing it again? And I haven't been back to do it again, but I do want to we have plans to do even more investigations in September, October of 2025. So I will be going back again. And I don't know which like experience on that in that vortex that I could even start with. But
Let me ask one more question about
yeah,
open mics. Would you do that any place?
yeah,
Like, would you come to Olympia and do it?
yeah. If I had a venue that was,
Okay,
open to it, and we don't have any budget. Like Sufon is totally
right.
um just a volunteer organization,
Yeah.
and just this year, like all the meetup costs for it,
Yeah. Carol was telling me it's gone
yeah,
up.
it's crazy. And she
Mhm.
was covering the cost for everything always. And we don't usually charge tickets for our events, but one of the open mics we did charge tickets because we had to cover the venue. And it was very well attended. So I do think even if we have to cover the venue, I think um people, it seems like, I mean, we had I think we sold 200 tickets at that one that we sold tickets to. So and they're not much. We just want to make sure we're covering our
Right.
costs.
Right.
But yeah, I if someone has a venue, I would host
Well,
an
I'm not going to promise anything, but that's something I'm going to work on. I've got some
okay.
connections to work on. Anyway, let's go back to the Bermuda Triangle. So, if you would describe geographically where the triangle's at, we're talking Puerto Rico, Miami. You do
Yeah,
that. You
so
can.
the Aguada area, kind of Rincon to Aguada area of Puerto Rico is the southern tip of the Bermuda Triangle. And then it goes, I'm kind of bad with directions, so I'm thinking it's east. It goes to Miami, and
Okay.
that's the other um eastern tip. And then northern tip of it is Bermuda.
Okay.
Um, and it's a pretty big geographic area, but it's mostly all water.
Hmm.
There's very little land that is in this vortex. Um, the land that, at least I don't know so much. I do know in Puerto Rico, a lot of the activity is under the water. It's and I believe that the lake that they have all the activity at, I found out through some research that it's actually a saltwater lake, which is very strange. It's not very
Mm-hmm.
common. And I think it's connected. I think there's underground like tunnels, or I don't know if you want to call it cities. But we did interview someone who said that he was walking along one day near Laguna Cartagena, and the ground just opened up in front of him, like like as if a sinkhole happened, but no dirt or nothing fell. It was just like a dimensional hole or something.
Mm.
And he said he looked down and he could see like layers of an underground city under there. And then
Wow.
he said he looked away and looked back and it was gone.
Whoa.
And so I heard accounts like that. I also felt the energy there, and it does definitely seem like a lot of the activity is underground, but a lot of people see portals opening up in the sky as well. Um, so, I think they're beings or vessels or whatever you want to, dimensions, portals that are interdimensional or inner spatial. I mean, maybe they're going to different parts of our planet or different parts of the universe. It's hard to say, but I will say that there's a lot in, specifically in Puerto Rico, there's a lot of different um entities there. There's good and bad, and there's not just like one species. It's kind of like almost an intergalactic kind of feeling where there's different lots of different things kind of coming together to um interact, maybe to share resources, correspond. I'm not quite sure, but I do know that when I go into water, a lot of times I'll get a download. And my daughter wanted to swim out by right in Rincon. She wanted to go out in the ocean. And of course, like we're there, we want to like interview people and stuff. And my daughter's 9, and she's like, "Come on, mom, come swim, come swim." And I'm like, "Okay, okay, okay," and I tell like my husband and our crew, I'm like, "Okay, Penny wants me to swim. I'm gonna go swim." Of course, like the second I get in the water, I get this like massive like download, like this hit. And and it just said, "This is a strategic location."
Hmm.
That was it. But it was a major aha moment for me, because I was like, "Oh, that's why the US wants Puerto Rico. That's why there's so much military
Hmm.
here. That's why they're so interested in this area." Like, because there's a lot going on here. This isn't just like a random territory that,
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Like, the download made a lot of sense to me. And it happens to me frequently when I go into water, especially new bodies of water that I haven't been in before. I'll just get some moment of clarity, and something that I wouldn't like think of. I would never think this is a strategic location. You know what I mean? Like, this is just
Right.
like not how
Right.
I would think. Um, and
Did,
so,
didn't you have I listened to your interview you did with Whitley Strieber. Didn't you have a weird interaction with a park ranger when you were
oh
in
yeah,
Puerto Rico? Talk
yep.
about that a little
I
bit. I
almost forgot
thought
about that.
that was interesting.
Yes. So that was when we were trying to get to Laguna Cartagena, which is that lake. And the GPS, because GPS doesn't work there. Like, you have to understand, the electromagnetic energy is just spinning. All this is the only way I can think of describing it, but it's like kind of like spinning, and then I think it collides with other energy, and then it starts making like bigger vortexes and stuff, and they just kind of spin around, and it messes with electronics. It messes with humans. Like, we're electromagnetic too, so like you
Hmm.
can feel really lightheaded, or get a really bad headache. my daughter kept complaining about headache, but it wasn't because she's dehydrated. I mean, it was just this like pressure, like
Mhm.
but so the GPS wasn't working. Um, Alder and Nyla thought that they knew how to get there without the GPS because they had scouted it out before we went. And we just kept looping, like we couldn't find where the road we were looking for. And so we find this like parking lot. And we think, oh, it's the park's parking lot. There must be bathrooms. It must be, like
Mhm.
whatever. And so we all kind of pile out of the car. We'd been in the car for a long time. We need to stretch our legs anyway. And one of our guys goes back by where we think our bathrooms, because they're buildings. And he finds out he's videoing just to be curious. We're just kind of wandering around, and all of a sudden, this car shows up, like from out of nowhere. I didn't hear it approach, this park ranger's there, and he said, "The park is closed." And we were like, "It's like broad daylight.
Mhm.
What do you mean it's closed?" And he said, "Nope, I'm in charge of the park, and it closes right now." And I
Wow.
go, "Oh, well, is there a bathroom over there? My daughter needs to use the bathroom." And he goes, "There are no bathrooms here. Get in the car now." And he was
Wow.
serious. And I go, "Well, one of our friends is looking for the bathroom." And he's like, "Go get him." And so like I run over there and I'm like, "Hey, we're supposed to go." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Do you know what's back there?" I was like, "No." And he goes, "It's like all covered in barbed wire, and it says no
Wow.
trespassing." And I'm like, "Come on, I go, "Did you get video of it?" And he's like, "Yeah." And we like went back and got in the car, and that park ranger followed us until we got to a point where he said we could be there.
Well, and the barbed wire is something you don't think of putting around a bathroom, so there must have been something way
Yeah,
deeper.
and this is like in the middle of nowhere. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, why would there be buildings that you can't go into in a bird reserve? Because that's what they say it is. They say it's a bird sanctuary. Um, and it's like, even if they're researching birds, I don't think it would be like so closed off. Like,
No, I don't think so either. So who do
it's,
you think this person was, other than being a park
I
ranger?
think they were security. I think they were security. And I think it's like if you get too close to operation or a site where they're doing research, or who knows what they're doing there, but it's clearly something. It didn't look abandoned. You know what I mean? Like it looked like people come and go. Sometimes there were no other people there when we were there, and it was like a midweek day, kind of maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something by that time. But yeah, it was very strange. We ended up finding the lake where we wanted to go, but by the time we finally got to the lake, it was just starting to get dark. And we went to the middle of the lake, had like this dock that kind of goes out into it. And we went out there because we were going to do a meditation. And almost immediately upon starting the meditation, and this is after walking into the lake, took us about half an hour to walk there. And then from where we parked, and then, setting up for the meditation, we were there about an hour. We didn't see one mosquito, one bug, or
Hmm.
anything, to the point where we were actually talking about it. Like, my husband was like, "We're in the middle of Puerto Rico and there's no bugs
Yeah,
here."
no bugs.
And yeah, and it was really strange. And so we go out on the dock, and right when we start the meditation, like I had a little metal bowl and I like dinged it. And right when that happened, it was almost like we were being attacked by these little tiny like bugs, but like we never saw them.
Hmm.
And all of us were itching. We were like uncomfortable. And I'm gonna say we're pretty like, all of us meditate a lot, so it doesn't take a lot for us to drop in, but we were all just like shifting around. I was trying to lead the meditation, but I kind of couldn't. I was just like, I go, at one point I remember thinking like, "You guys, I think I'm getting bit up." And so
Hmm.
we all just were like, "Okay, abandon ship. We're gonna
Mhm.
get out of here. You know, we pack up all our stuff really quick. And as we're walking, a massive lightning storm started. Like, and this is the, I've never been in a lightning storm like this. It was ball lightning.
Mm.
That's what one of us said. I am not from the South, and this person was from the South and seemed to know that it was ball lightning. But it was really strange because there's no weather to go with it. You know, like the weather didn't shift, but
Mhm.
these big flashes of light started happening all around, like almost as if it was saying, go that way, like
Yeah. Mm.
go out. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of like I felt like we were getting it just kept following the path we were going on. And a few of the times the light would shine, but there would be like a shadow in front of the light that looks like a disc-shaped object. And
Mm.
I'm like, you guys, I don't know if this is actually lightning. Like this,
Mhm.
and we were all just, I don't know, it was eerie. In a way, we didn't feel, I'm gonna say I didn't feel like scared, even having our 9-year-old daughter with me. I didn't feel like we were being threatened at all, but I definitely felt like there was an energy that did not want us there anymore.
Mm.
Like we kind of overstepped or something.
Let me go back to the park ranger because I'm kind of intrigued by that guy. Was he dressed like a park ranger?
He had on a white shirt that was like crisp, like and matching white pants, and I think a black belt.
Okay,
Like,
but he didn't have anything that said National Park Service.
mm-mm,
Okay, all right.
no, no. And his car was unmarked. He was driving like kind of looked like it could be a park ranger's car, like a SUV kind of,
Uh-huh.
you know, with because the terrain there is you know, you need beefy cars, and
Mhm.
it looked like something that could be a park ranger car. The one thing I was trying to see on it was the license plate, but
Yeah,
like
that's
with
right.
so much commotion and different things that I didn't get to like see the license plate. And I don't know. I have this thing with license plates that I can like tell if that's official government vehicle or not. You know, like you just
Hmm.
know, you can tell by the plate.
Hmm.
But none of us saw it. And even when we got in the car, I was like, "Did any of you see the license plate? Like what it was?" And we're all like, "No." It just because he showed up so unexpected and out of the blue. Like
Hmm.
we didn't even hear his car drive up. Maybe we were just really distracted because we're in
Hmm.
a new place. There's lots of reasons for how it could have happened, but it caught us all off guard, and he was very serious. Like I
Hmm.
even I'm kind of a friendly person, so you know, I kind of like made a little joke and he wasn't having it. He's like,
No,
"Get in the car." And I
no
was like,
sense of humor.
yeah, no sense of humor at all.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so let's go back to the storm. I'm sorry to drag you off of your narrative there, but I thought
No, it's
I'm
okay.
getting interested in this park ranger kind of guy. So continue. You guys there's a storm
Yeah,
going on.
so we walked back, and like I said, it was about half an hour walk from the lake to the car where the car was parked. And the whole time we were walking, there was this storm happening without any weather. That's what's so strange about this lightning is like I don't know. But so the storm was happening, but then at the same time, we could kind of there was a on one side of us is like a mountain, but then the other side is kind of looks out over the lake, so you can see like a lot more sky. But on the side where the mountain is, there's a lot of vegetation. It's a jungle, so
Hmm.
there's a lot of plants and birds and snakes and all sorts of things that are living in there, and you can hear them rustling as you go past and stuff, but nothing like you know it's like a snake. You know what I mean? Like it's not scary is what I'm
Hmm.
saying. But then all of a sudden, my daughter says, I think we're being followed. And Alder was walking next to her, and she's like, I feel like there's something off in those bushes. And Penny and Alder were convinced that there was something like escorting us out of there. Like
Oh,
both of them said they weren't afraid. Um, in fact, no one on the crew was afraid, which was really cool because we all kind of come from different backgrounds and stuff, and all sorts of things could have come up and created mayhem, but everyone was really like calm. But it was definitely, it felt like we had kind of stepped into something that we maybe weren't supposed to. I think that's how it felt, but it didn't
Hmm.
feel mean. Like it
Hmm.
didn't have any negative feelings. It just was kind of like like when two magnets like don't
Hmm.
touch. It's kind of like that. Like we got this close and then we're supposed to go back,
Hmm.
kind of thing. But but we made it back to the car, and by the time we got back to our Airbnb that night, we were all really drained. I'm gonna say
Hmm.
it was quite an experience.
Let's go back and talk a little bit more about the uh, Bermuda Triangle as a location. So I've heard the Bermuda Triangle referred to as the Sargasso Sea. Have you ever heard of that?
So the way I understand it is that Puerto Rico, half of it used to be connected to Africa, and half of it used to be connected to, is it Americas? I can't remember, but what's interesting when you're there is that there's one side of the island that the trees kind of have this banyan look, like kind of African Serengeti sort of look. And
Hmm.
then this other side that's very jungly and vastly different. Like it feels like more palms and bamboo and different things like that are um it's almost like it's kind of split in two. And so I think that um I think it's an ancient portal. I think it's maybe one of the most ancient entrances onto Earth. I mean, I've also spent time in Egypt, and that's a very ancient portal,
Yes.
but it has a different feeling than the Bermuda Triangle. Almost everything there is under the water. And so my guess is that that has maybe at one time been above water and it sunk,
Hmm.
or maybe it's always been underwater. I'm not sure, but the geography of that area has changed over Earth's evolution.
I'm trying to remember what I heard about Sargasso is some kind of algae or something like that. And when it decays, it gives off a horrible stench. And some people, I can't remember where I heard this, they were trying to connect some of the ship disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle to this Sargasso. But that doesn't account for things like aircraft flying over the Bermuda Triangle and then disappearing. Can you shed any light on that?
I think so. I think the ships disappearing, I think they just slip into portals. I
Hmm.
think they go into another dimension, and some of them come back out. Like you hear of stories like years later, a ship will just come out and it hasn't been seen, but everyone on board is dead. Like they expired a long time ago, but the ship washes up. I also think there are other portals in the world, but I think the Bermuda Triangle is such an electromagnetic anomaly of like
Mhm.
that. And how I was saying how the energy vortexes kind of spin around, I think it's very difficult, even with our modern technology, to know if you're going to end up in that one open portal that takes you to that other dimension. You know what I mean? Because it's so spinny and it just kind of goes around. And if you get caught up in it, I think you go into a different dimension. And I do think they all go to different places. Like maybe, maybe there is off-world portals there too, and um that's what I think the ships or the planes that disappear, I think they're just slipped into the wrong vortex.
Hmm.
Wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. But it
Right.
happens more there because of the electromagnetic anomalies.
Hmm. So why do you think and this maybe is kind of an unfair question, uh, why is the Bermuda Triangle the way it is? Why is there a portal there and like not a portal in downtown Olympia or something. And maybe there is. I just haven't discovered it.
I mean, I think that our planet is alive, and I think that is also connected to lots of other planets, maybe even other dimensions, galaxies, universes. And if we really do live in a multidimensional universe, all of that must be connected. And
Mm.
so they're just, it's like a chakra point on the planet where that's where that energy is, um, pulled to for whatever electromagnetic thing that the earth has in the Bermuda Triangle. It's like sending out its signals, and then the people that are receiving the or the beings or ships that are receiving those signals is like, that's where we're going, like um did you hear about in early 2024 in Miami, there was this incident at a mall where a portal opened up and there was a mass sighting of these like tall beings.
No, I had tell me about that.
So this happened like about 6 months before I went down there, and it was one of those stories that captured me like online. You go down a rabbit hole and you hear about this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like in the evening around like 6 o'clock in the evening, and it was dark in Miami, and it was at this mall I think called the Bayshore Mall, and people saw and they got it on footage too, which is so cool. This bright portal open up in the middle of the mall, and then you can see something happening and then it disappears. And right after that, there's these very large gray beings that are seen walking along the outside of the mall.
Oh
And
my gosh.
hundreds of people saw it. The Miami Police Department dispatched an all city call to it. And the story on the news was that there were teenagers fighting at the mall.
Which is not quite what you just talked about.
No. And what was so funny is that because of TikTok and YouTube, a lot of people who
Mhm.
saw things and captured them were posting them on social media and calling out the news station. Like, this
Right.
wasn't kids fighting,
No.
this was massive quantities of people freaking out because they saw something that they didn't think they could see. They
Mm.
were in like ontological shock. You could tell
Yeah.
there were people that I saw this one guy's TikTok, and he was I think like a musician or something that lived in Miami and just happened to be at the mall. And he's like you can tell shaken up, like emotional,
Mm.
like I'm just telling you, I never believed in aliens. I didn't, all
Mhm.
this stuff. And now I'm telling you what I saw was real. And I don't care what the police say. This was sighting, like and so many accounts like that. And
So,
so
do you know if there's any place that, like on YouTube, where you could find a video of
I
this?
have, yeah, I did a YouTube video about this story and I linked a bunch of these ones. I don't
Send
know
me
if all
that
those,
link.
if they're
Send me
all
that
active
link.
still, because
Okay,
this is
send me the
like
link.
a year and a half later. I can send you the link. I'll send you the link
Okay,
of the story that I
thanks.
did.
That'd be
Um,
great. Aliens at
yeah,
the mall.
yeah, it's exactly. That's what I called it.
Hmm.
But then I came to find out that uh the coordinates of that Bayshore Mall are exactly opposite of coordinates in the Antarctica. Like, so if
Oh.
you take the coordinates and you just flip
Mhm.
them, so like say someone
Mhm.
transposed the numbers, like say there's like galactic ship and it's supposed to go to Antarctica, but someone makes a mistake, all beings make mistakes, like no one's perfect. And they say they, transpose those coordinates and they end up at a mall and they're like, oh, there's all these humans. We're not supposed to be here, like
Yeah,
kind of
really.
freaking out. And they try to,
Mhm.
get back on their ship and get to where they're supposed to be. I don't know. That could be like conspiracy theory, but I did put the coordinates in myself, and it does, if you flip them, it does go to Antarctica. So that could
Wow.
be, um,
We
but
did a show on Men in Black, and
mhm.
a friend of ours told a story about being in a J.C. Penney's, and for some reason I'm thinking it's in the South, and she was in the J.C. Penney's at Christmas time going through the checkout, and she's with her daughter, and she happened to look behind her, and there were these two ladies with they had like a baby, also, I don't know what you call, like a stroller, two
Yep.
strollers that had covers over them. And this was a very attractive woman, according to the person who was telling the story. But they looked at the children, and the children were ETs.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, the whole scene froze under some circumstances. And then they went to look for this. They got out of line and went to look for this lady and their two kids and couldn't find them.
Yeah.
So weird stuff, very weird stuff.
Hmm. Well, and most likely those beings that were pushing the strollers were probably just shape shifting into humans. They probably were also extraterrestrials. They just, I've heard many accounts of people seeing a human and then it changes in front of them into
Into an ET.
something else. So
Yeah.
I truly believe shape shifting is entirely possible. Another thing that reminded me of is I've heard this from quite a few people that you encounter time travelers at grocery stores. Like there's something
Really?
about grocery stores that are like it's like a commonplace thing that anyone will go to. But if someone has to deliver a message anonymously to someone, they will like strike up a conversation at a grocery store with that person they're supposed to like strike up the conversation with.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Well, next
Like
time
think
I go
about
to
all the random conversations you've had over the
right.
years at grocery stores and then start thinking, I wonder if I was ever talking to a time traveler, you know?
Mhm. I'm going to pay a lot more attention when I go to Safeway next
Yep.
time as to what's going on there. I want to be cognizant of our time here. So let's go back to the Bermuda Triangle. Is that a place that needs to be studied? Is that
Yes.
some kind of, I don't know whether it's the US government that would do that, given what's going on with that.
Well, I think
Mm,
the US government is there studying it 1000%. Yeah.
yeah,
They have a strong presence there. Um, but I do think that we all kind of know that what they study may or may not hit the public.
yeah,
You
right.
know,
Just
it's
take
hard,
UFOs. The
right?
last 70, 80 years of UFOs, they've been studying them, but they kind of say, no, those don't exist.
Yep. And I think having conversations like this is really important to highlight the Bermuda Triangle because I believe there's so much more to explore there. Like I'm planning on going in the fall and staying for a few months next
Mm,
time I go. I'm just I'm really drawn to it. I want to know more. I want more answers. I left there with way more questions than answers.
mm,
Like I don't know. But I think having conversations and starting to put the idea inside people's minds that this is an important energetic portal on our planet that could be more understood and maybe put us closer to having a communication with our galactic family that is more open and you know I think they definitely hold technology that can help our planet very,
yes,
very much. And I think we're getting closer to the time when those worlds will come together. Um, I feel that in my heart, but I also know I'm like very optimistic. So and
mhm,
I'm also um, there's there's a lot of fear for people that kind of seeps in. And I've had experiences throughout my life that have been very scary things, but everything always ended up okay. I mean, I won in 1996, the most monumental one that I remember is I was driving down a road in Arizona and I was in college. Um, and I just had missing time. I
mhm,
didn't, it was like all the way till the next afternoon to the point where when I finally met up with my friends, they were making fun of me because I couldn't remember where I parked. But it's
mm,
because I never even remembered getting there. Like
mhm,
I went from like 4 in the morning till 2 in the next day. And then when I always had a lot of fear over that, like what happened? What, why did I suppress my memories? Like what, it was scary. It was very scary and unsettling to not know what happened, even though I knew it was something big. I could feel
Hmm.
that. I could feel it, but it was my mind made it so scary. And then years later, I finally did regression hypnosis,
I was going to say,
and
did you do that? No.
I did. And the memories came flooding back in like an instant, almost like a psychic hit. Like
Hmm.
it's like everything. And I was pulled into a ship, and on this ship there were multiple different beings. The first beings that I saw, I was paralyzed and I was like hovering in the middle of a bright room is the only way I could describe it. And I looked and I couldn't move my head any part, but I could move my eyes. So I could kind of like look around and see. And I saw these robotic, I thought they were robotic. Nowadays I would say they're grays. But they kind of had real robotic like movements, and they were
Movements?
doing something to me. And I was like, what are you doing? And I said it telepathically to them. And they said, we're tinkering with your DNA. And they were
Oh,
very
gosh.
to the point. Like, but I was to the point too. I'm like, what are you doing? And then I said, why? And it's like it didn't compute to them. And they looked, and I looked up, and there was another being in the room that I hadn't noticed before. But I think that's maybe where the light was coming from, because I looked and it was this like bright, illuminated mother figure. Like I called it afterwards, I called it a mothership, because this being had such a presence and was so beautiful. Like I just started crying, and
Hmm.
she was really, really gentle, and she said, why are you crying? Are you scared? And I said, no, I'm not scared. I just don't feel worthy of being near you. Like I
Hmm.
just didn't feel like her energy was just so big that I just didn't think I could. I don't know. Just thought I was a little person. I don't know. Like it didn't feel right.
Hmm.
And she said, oh no, no, you're supposed to be here. And then that's when I asked her why. And she said, that's not a question anyone can answer, but you will see signs and you will know why. She said that
Hmm.
the why is in you. Like I will know at one time why I was there. Um,
Did that come to pass? Did you ever?
yeah, I believe that I believe I was there because they were tinkering with my DNA so that at a certain point when I'm on my path, I can open up to my psychic abilities. And I think they did something that dissolves fear in me. And I,
Hmm.
I don't know, because there's a lot of times where I get in these situations where I should be very fearful. And I just get this like, no, I'm here for a reason. Okay, I got to figure out what that reason is. Everything is going to be okay, kind of thing. Like, and I get down to business. It's like it's part of my mission or something.
Hmm. I can't help but think when you said the aliens were tinkering with you and they seemed to be surprised that you were having a problem with that. We do that to animals all the time. We
Hmm.
experiment on all kinds of animals, and we don't think anything. We're a superior life form in our way of thinking, and so
Yep.
that just justifies it. So maybe there's a connection there.
Yeah, I remember I saw this like I don't know, show on TV where they were taking sharks and tagging them, and then they were like taking sperm, they were doing all this stuff from the sharks. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, that's what a lot of the extraterrestrials do to humans, and no
Yeah,
one says anything about it, like, but we're just doing it to other animals too. Like I don't know, like all of a sudden I kind of like got mad at humans. I'm like, hey, what if this happened to you? You might not
right,
like it. And this
right.
is happening to humans. Like there's so many stories all over the planet that people have abductions where things like that happen.
Yeah, very true, very true. So, don't want to keep you for the rest of your life. You're going to go to Rome, right?
Yes.
What are
Yep.
you going to do over
I
there?
uh so I have meeting up with some friends that I know from Russia, and we're a group of energetic people that have just been
Mhm.
connected over the years. I went to Russia in 2011,
Mm,
and the woman that was my interpreter is who I'm meeting up with in Italy, and she's now dates a guy that lives in Rome that is Italian. And last summer, after we were in the Bermuda Triangle, they had come to Seattle and stayed with us for a month or two.
cool.
And we really just started talking about like all these different things going on in the world. And I had a lot of questions for Davide in Europe, saying like, hey, is there activity there? What are you seeing? And he has a friend who started an actual like UFO touring company where they take people
Oh,
to hot spots in Italy. And so he wants to introduce us to that person. And then I just have some other investigative things I want to like do there at certain locations and see if I get downloads in the water. Um, yeah,
no,
just
be an
feeling it
adventure,
out.
Krystal. Yeah. So, you have a website, right?
Yes, krystalkelly.com.
Okay.
And I have
And you've got books there too,
yep,
right? Tell us about some books that our listeners could purchase from you at that
yeah.
website.
So it's krystalkelly.com, and it's Krystal with a K and Kelly with an EY. I guess you can see that on
Yeah.
my Zoom. And I have books. I do have a book that I published called A Future Remembered, and that is about my trip to Russia, which
Huh?
was another very synchronistic wild thing in Siberia, in like
No.
very remote part of Russia. And then I have meditation courses that I publish, ways that people can calm their nervous system or remove subconscious programming or fears that they want to release. I have classes online that kind of help with those things. Um, and I also have my blog on there that I send updates like when we do our travels, or we're working on our Universe on Earth show. We're still like getting that series out, which will be out like hopefully by this summer. And I'm working on a new series called Disclosure Files, and I will have some stuff from Italy in that too. I can't quite say a lot about Disclosure Files yet because that is actually a project with Whitley that I'm doing with Whitley
Oh,
Strieber,
cool.
and
Cool.
it'll be on his channel when we publish it. It'll be on his channel, and
Cool.
we hope. I think we're hoping for like mid to late May to get the first um episodes out on that, which would be like the first season of it.
You're one busy lady. And maybe you could help us connect with Whitley. He would be a great guest to have on this program.
Yes.
I want to thank you for your time today. Time is valuable, and you've really added a lot to our program, and I really want to thank you for that. Maybe we can connect. I'm going to work on this open mic thing because I've
Okay.
got a couple of resources there, and we'll just keep you in the loop about that.
Yeah.
So, anything else to say before we bid adieu, and you have a great
I
time.
I, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for
Sure.
having me, and thank you for having an open mind and your platform for talking about all these anomalies.
Yeah. Yeah, some people would call me weird. Other people would just say, hey, you've got an open mind. So I
Mhm.
prefer the open mind thing. But thanks so much, Crystal, for being on with us. And as soon as we get this edited and on the YouTube channel, I'll send you a connection to that.
Great. I'll share it
Yeah.
all over
Okay.
my socials too.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thanks, Dan. I hope you
Yeah,
have some
sure.
peace today.
I will. Sure, I will. And thanks again for being on with us. Bye bye.
Bye. Oh.